Thank you all for being here this afternoon. I'll go through the slides rather rapidly. What we've got here is an aerial view, somewhat cartoonish, but I think what it explains is the green color up there is the Calaveras river watershed, and the other two colors are to the north is McCollum, and to the south is the Stanislaus. So that's just a proportional image to have in your mind there that Donnie brought up earlier, is that it's, 95% of the watershed is below 5,000 feet. So there's not a lot of runoff into the watershed from snowmelt. So come June, unimpaired water flows pretty much drop off. And that's the challenge of the river, and that's why it's so flashy. But again, a more simplified map that Donnie had up there showing the river, and it's split at Balota, and Balota is where we have our intake to the drinking water treatment plant here in town, where we serve the city of Stockton and California Water Service in San Joaquin County. So we put about 50,000 acre feet, if you're into volumes, 50,000 acre feet of water through the treatment plant every year, either comes from the Stanislaus River or the Calaveras. And then obviously we serve agricultural out to the east of town. This is an example of the riparian habitat upstream of Balota. Pretty nice looking river. Nice cover for the fish. I'm not a fish biologist, but they tell me this is good. This is an example of the spawning gravel that's in that similar stretch up there. We split the river up. Above Balota is about 13 miles from Balota up to New Hogan Dam, and downstream of Balota is about another 13 miles to the confluence just upstream of the University of Pacific neighborhood. This is at Sheldon Road. These are some of the low flows. This is about the minimum flow that you'll see in the Calaveras River as long as we've got water in New Hogan Dam. And this is a rotary screw trap. There's another view of it on this next slide here. So now we're looking downstream, and you can see how the fish might be trapped in that drum type screen, and they're not destroyed. They're just kept in there overnight, and then we count them and then release them back to the river. But it's nice to have this facility there, so we're able to track how many migrant fish are moving down the river, and our fish biologist can provide you all the data on that. This is an aerial photograph of Balota itself. So upstream of this flashboard dam, good habitat. Downstream, not so good. But we're working on the not so good part. So this is obviously a summertime operation. We're not concerned about flood flows. So therefore we're storing the water, and we're diverting it off to the right side of this picture and into the pipeline and to our treatment plant for treatment of drinking water. And then you can see there's flow downstream, and there's a fish ladder that we leave in there year-round, but it's really only functional during the up migration times, so late fall, winter time. This is a photograph at 500 CFS. You can see the Balota weir is gone, but you can see to the right side of the photograph is our intake to the Balota pipeline, and you can see during the winter operations we put in a second ladder to allow fish to go from the pool in the weir itself up to the upper reaches of the river. Another picture in the same location at a lower flow, so you get a better view of the height that these fish are climbing. And we know this is not ideal, and as part of our habitat conservation plan for the river, within 5 years of signing the incidental take permit from NOAA Fisheries, we intend to replace this fish passage with more appropriate fish passage that will have a higher degree of success. Just a photograph of a 1974 drawing of when the intake was put in. Off to in the center of the photograph there, but off to the right of the view is those octagonal-looking screens. Those screens have this type of screen on them to prevent fish from being entrained into our pipeline. And obviously we have fish that are smaller and can get through these cracks, so it's not ideal. and it's just a temporary situation, but we will be upgrading it in the not too distant future. These are the pulse flows that Donnie mentioned in his presentation. You probably can't read the dates at the bottom, but basically just before, or the 1st of November, we had a pulse flow for a few days, and then about Thanksgiving time, we had another pulse flow. So we coordinate with the fish group on providing pulse flows to attract the steelhead up the river. I want 3 slides here in a row about the river, and this is what I wanted to address, a question that came up by Tony about why it's so difficult to manage the river and why the river goes dry now and then. With this, this is, you can get these graphs right off the Corps of Engineers website, and you can study them yourselves and come up with your own opinions. But at the bottom, it shows the flows, and you can see it says inflow, or maybe you can't see, but the red line is inflow into the dam, and outflow is a green line, which you can't see on there. But then there's one of the blue lines is the reservoir storage, and that's what you see at the top. And the gray area of the graph up top is the allowable storage in the reservoir. And then the blue line down at the bottom on the graph is the flow in Mormon Slough at Balota. And you see those 2 pulses in November there. So similar to the last graph, it shows those 2 pulses. And then it also shows the pretty good rain we had and the runoff we had in March and April, especially this last storm we had last week is that high peak. Just to focus in on that a little bit, looking at the last 30 days, similar type graph, but only looking at the last 30 days, you can see the rain event we had about 30 days ago, and we can see the rain event we had last week. And you can see what happens to the gray area on the graph, which is the allowable storage, and the blue line of the actual storage. Again, you don't see much flow from Mormon Slough except for under the event last week when flows exceeded 1,000 cubic feet per second. And by the way, 1,000 cubic feet per second at Balota is like 2,000 cubic feet per second going through the diverting canal and over at Budiselich, or Budiselich in Donnie's case. And this is a close-up of that last 5 days. Again, the red line being the inflow into New Hogan Dam, and then below that, the blue line on the lower graph being the flow at Balota. And then the red line, that hadn't shown up before, but that red line on that lower graph is Cosgrove Creek. So this is the largest contributor downstream of New Hogan Dam. And it reached a flow of 760 CFS. And obviously that was the main contributor because we weren't releasing any water from the dam. So the dam, by the way, New Hogan Dam is jointly operated by the Corps of Engineers and Stockton East Water District. The Corps of Engineers operate it when that blue line is outside of the gray area, and when it's in the gray area, it's operated by Stockton East. So this was the flow on the 14th, last Saturday. This is Balota Weir. It was up, erected. We got permission to put our dams in early because, you know, cherries need water this time of year, especially when it's not raining. So we want to deliver some water to the orchards and the people who are growing crops this time of year. So we put our dams in. This dam's about 8 feet tall, and that water's going over that dam about 1 foot. So that's what 1,000 CFS looks like going over a 120-foot wide weir. This is a Fine Road Dam the same day. Didn't hold up, so we lost an 8-foot section of it. It just flipped out, went downstream. It's replaced now. This is Pinella Dam, another flashboard dam. What we do with these dams is, you can see we make a nice pool of water, and then upstream of the dams we have irrigation pumps. And our irrigators pump out of those ponds to irrigate their orchards and grow crops. But obviously not when it's raining. I got 2 slides left. I don't know how I'm doing on time, Margaret. I'm doing fine? Just about perfect? Okay. I know this data is old, but it's consistent from year to year, so forgive me for having the 2003 data up here. But this is a time versus temperature chart here. And down at the bottom there are what the colors mean. So the coldest temperatures are at New Hogan. The warmest temperatures are at Main Street. And Main Street is pretty much right at the beginning of the Stockton Diverting Canal. So not being a fish biologist, but hearing from fish biologists, I understand they don't like temperatures much above 65 degrees Fahrenheit for habitat. So what this temperature chart shows is that temperatures exceed 80 degrees down near the diverting canal during the summer. They exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit at the Balota. So ideally, the best habitat for the fish to hang out is upstream of Balota. So that's just another illustration of why we focus most of our efforts for fish habitat upstream of Balota. And I think, Stacy, you mentioned the handouts in the back. If you need more copies, let me know. But this is the only written slide I have for you. And it's where we are with the HCP. So we submitted the final HCP in October of 11, and NOAA Fisheries is kind of sitting on it. They're a little busy with BDCP and some other things. But last week we had a meeting on the 12th with our attorneys and the attorneys from Calaveras County Water District. We're real close, but I've been saying that for 3 years, as many of you know. And I apologize for that, and I feel a little ashamed of that. But, you know, the HCP consists of, you know, a plan, how we're going to operate the river, and an environmental assessment as to whether that's going to have any effect on the habitat or the species, and then the incidental take permit. So each one of those documents is a negotiating tool between all the parties involved, and that's what's taking so long. But they did meet last week. They made good progress. I think we're having semantical arguments. You know, they say it one way, and boy, it really sounds like what I'm saying, but you know, we can't agree on the language. So that's what we're down to, is kind of the final language. But I want to assure anybody who's concerned about the Calaveras River that we are operating per the HCP, and we have been operating per the HCP for the last 5 years. So the only thing that will be different after the HCP is adopted and the ITP is signed by NOAA Fisheries is that we will have 5 years to fix Balota. So I'll stop there,